kind of tie hand in hand. It's a service that people appreciate, and and then also along with that, sometimes this introduces them to his card system, and all of a sudden they're interested in their own family tree, and one can build a family tree from his cards. And also, sometimes they'll have relatives appear at the time of the funeral that they didn't even know they had, or that they hadn't seen for years. And it inspires them to do a little family history, and they like doing it.
Do the preachers, other family members, and friends appreciate your biographies?
Very much so. The ministers appreciate it greatly because they need to have a message for their sermon, and all the information about the person that they need is right there in the biography. So that eliminates some searching and interviews. So the ministers really like it, and of course it's very personal to the family and dear to them, so they do appreciate it. Families.
Could your biographies serve as a eulogy, and have they ever served as a eulogy for families?
Very often, yes. Very often people want it read as a eulogy, and because we do praise these people, we look for the best and write about the best. And yes, they're often used as eulogies.
These biographies, they have helped the common man become more noted for their walk in life.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on how you think it describes more about our common walk in life in Evansville?
Well, 90% of the population is made up of the common people. There aren't many high achievers or people who achieve greatness. It's usually the everyday walk of life, the man and the lady who live an ordinary life. And we often overlook the fact that that ordinary life is quite extraordinary. And it warms people's heart to know that, well, yes, my grandfather was generous. They don't always think about these things, but they read this biography and they shake their head and say, yes, he was kind. And they hadn't always thought of it, but here it's in words and they appreciate it.
Many people have commented that they didn't know this about John Jones, they didn't know this about Phil Smith. Can you elaborate a little bit on how people learn more about a person that's passed away?
Well, they just will often say, oh, I didn't know he was a basketball star in high school. I didn't even know he played basketball. And or they'll say, well, he was in the war and I didn't know that he was a veteran. And it shows here that he was a Marine. And just different things like that they're a little surprised and glad to know.
How much have you received? A lot of remuneration for biographies or your husband's obituary cards? Do you get paid for doing these jobs?
Oh, no. Well, we're not paid for the biographies. Never. I know we don't do it for that reason. And Charlie doesn't receive anything for his study. No, he never has. That's not why we've done it. And we couldn't accept any monetary return. It just wouldn't, it defies the purpose.
This project of genealogy and the creation of a file card system in alphabetical order started in the 1950s. That was 10 years into your marriage. Tell us how your children helped with your project over the last 40 years, Mother.
I think they helped quite a bit. Charlie would bring some of these cards home and grab one of the kids here, another kid there, and have them alphabetized. And of course, they like to sneak away too. If they didn't want to do it, why, he couldn't find them. But it got so that they had races with each other, and it was more interesting that way. So they did do quite a bit of alphabetizing, but they didn't do any other contributing duties toward the cards. Yeah, for the most part, it was alphabetizing, wasn't it, Charlie?
I feel that's the way it was.
But it got to be kind of a game, and there was some enthusiasm and some fun. So, and it was helpful.
When Dad or Charles, when you would look at the telephone book or any type of index material in life, you immediately go to the top of the page, and most people will open the phone book up and page after page after page. You have become very astute in finding, never turning a page till you get to the right page in finding an index in a telephone book. Do you think filing over 1 million cards in alphabetical order helped you in finding things in the telephone book and other directories quickly?
Oh yes, everything you do in that line of work helps your own education in it and helps you become more adept at what you're doing. You cite the telephone book. Well, you can always refer to the telephone book if you want to exact your alphabetizing. If somebody had a certain few cards missing or misplaced and they were questioning the alphabetizing of it, the telephone book is a sort of a Bible toward that. But the telephone book can't do anything else but give you a person's name and address and phone number. And it's a beautiful thing that's ongoing. Now, of course, the city directory is ongoing also and has a little better entries into it than does the telephone book. But I never did work telephone numbers. That becomes too difficult and too non-used other than the book itself. So I never did work that into my scheme. But in all the other little vignettes or activities or credits to a person, I would like to get those entered on the card. And I don't do well on that because it's a mammoth task. And oftentimes, rather than go back and dig out a card, I just make a new one, which I can do about as fast and put new credits on there as I can, getting someone to go get the card on my desk and go put it back in. So I never did employ that system too often, but I just put in. And another thing we didn't talk about, I've got other sources than the newspaper. I got the beautiful study on the city directory per se, but I didn't take that route. I just did that for consulting. But church directories and high school yearbooks. I have a vast collection on both of those. But the only thing that the high school yearbook does, it establishes when a person is 18 years old, and yes, they went to that school. That gives you a little bit of a beginning start of them in this life, and about where they lived at. Geographically, that places them in. If they went to a certain school in the city, that places them in the geographical position in the city. 2 or 3 secondaries, other than just that that's their picture and they graduated. The city directory has 2 or 3 extra things, but they have weakened their hold in so that the last several years I haven't done too well with them because a lot of times they title a person's activity in this world as a technician, T-E-C-H. Well, I can't go far with that because that can be a mechanic or physicist or psychologist, or not quite a psychologist, he'll get a PhD, but other little initiatives are little things that they've taken away, whereas some 20, 30 years ago when I used the city directory, it would have the wife's name always in there, and it would have employment, like they worked at a certain place in town, or they were a physician, or they were a chemist, or they worked if they worked at Mead Johnson, all the times I got a secondary title. But today, I don't like the entries in the city directory so well because they're mystique or vague or covers a big territory when they put a few words behind their name. But those have been my instruments of research. And the church directories, I only could get them by canvassing the churches and get them at the right time. High school yearbooks, I don't have all those, but I make a canvass to the school each year and try to get them. So I don't have a perfect collective anywhere, but in my obituary work, I've exacted that for all the years and checked it one against another, and I feel that most of the things that came across my desk got an entry. We get to check our work, but sometimes the work becomes too much to be double checked at all times. But we do the best we can to get them in there.
As we look at your study, if you look at study of history, a person is born, many individuals will graduate from high school, many individuals will become part of a church, many individuals will marry, many individuals will have an anniversary celebration, and many individuals will often be noted in the paper for credits, and finally an individual will die. Out of those 7 light posts of life, your studies include 6 of the 7. You miss only births, but those are general marks on a person's walk in this world. It's not great detail, but it is detailed. Mother, can you tell us a little bit about, elaborate a little bit on the 8 or 7 light posts of one's life, of how we've ordered that for an historical perspective?
Well, I've really never thought of it as light posts, but that's a good analogy. Yes, we have the marriages, we have the education, and we have their work field and their family. So it's an ongoing journey, and then the conclusion, of course, is the obituary. So we do have an example of a span of a lifetime in these cards. And that would include marriages, anniversaries, engagements, high school graduation, church membership. We have quite a bit of a person's history, except the birth certificate.
In this study, you two have initiated this over the last 50 years. How do you see it as an ongoing project for the next 50 when you leave this earth in body?
Well, I think for now, our 4 children have enough enthusiasm that it will continue for the next 20 or 30 years. And if they do indeed have that enthusiasm, and I think they have, then they'll have to set up another method, either with their children or some kind of foundation to continue the project. But I don't know that we can make any plans for 20 to 30 years from now. We just have to depend that our children will do that.
Charles, right now you do have the computer process in motion that documents each obituary within usually 24 hours of the notice in the paper. Marriages are usually documented within a week of notification in the paper, and your other historical information is not quite as real time. Do you feel that most of your information can become real time for future generations?
I feel that the obituary work is ongoing, and each day when the paper hits our desk, by very shortly it is today, and today's day and age in the computer. We continue to talk about the 3x5 card, but that does no longer receive my obituary work, and that discontinued in that scheme of things about 1990 when we switched to a computer system, and in there, the beauty of it is